All right, hello, welcome to Cloud Robotics Working Group. We are today discussing the State of Cloud Robotics survey, which is, oh, that's the wrong window. I need to share this. Is it this one? Yeah, I think it's this one. Yeah, great. So we ran this. I didn't check, but I felt confident it was 2024 that we ran this. Is that right? If it was 2023, that's even more embarrassing. We haven't done anything on it in like 3 years. But I think it was
Seems right.
24, wasn't it? But anyway, I think we were planning to run this every year, and then we didn't do it last year. But it'd be nice to keep on top of that, especially if it doesn't take too long for us to update the questions that we've already thought were good questions. So we'll copy the survey. We'll probably copy the questions over, and the responses to the questions did include there was a question we had about, did we miss anything out? What other questions would you like to be included? So I think it'd be good for us to include those as well, and then refine. So that's the basic premise of what I've got planned.
Yeah, sounds good. I'm not, and I guess we'll need to look over the questions and see whether there's something that we need to add. In 2 years, obviously, things have changed, especially around AI, physical AI. It was, when was that big spike in, when did Lee Robot come out? Because I think there's a lot of people now who are motivated by that. Let me quickly check something. Yeah, August 2025, roughly, was it when Lee Robot came on. That sort of changed things a little bit, right? I mean, there's a lot more people started working on robotics from the not in the ROS kind of ecosystem, and more like Lee Robot. They're not necessarily interested in cloud robotics yet, but clearly since then there's been a lot of interest more in the tooling around data gathering and learning, and the whole, people call it the data flywheel, which I keep pointing out, it's not a flywheel, but it's so hard not to use that term because everybody seems to understand that. Yeah, might be good to add a question or two along those lines, like how do you feel like you have the right tools for data gathering? Where are the holes? Things like that. I'm actually not sure that Lee Robot uses cloud. I haven't looked into that. I think it's much more of a sort of a hobbyist setup, isn't it?
I am not clear on the details.
I mean, clearly they're now part of Hugging Face, and Hugging Face is obviously, it does have, cloud offerings and so forth. Yeah, and I didn't necessarily mean Lee Robot specifically. I think I wouldn't. At least I wouldn't qualify the question on that. I'm just pointing out that since then there's sort of this cottage industry almost of both hobbyists and students, but then also companies thinking more in more principled terms about how they use learning in robotics. And for that, of course, you need to collect data, and kind of that's where I feel like cloud robotics could play a role. Yeah, things like that.
That makes sense. Let me grab this link and put it in chat in case anyone wants to edit directly. Share. Anyone with the link can be an editor. And then I'll move this into the right folder afterwards. We have a folder with everything we discuss in it, but I haven't put this in the right place yet. Okay, so let's. I'm going to move them into the Scratchpad because I just think it'll be easier to. Oh, I didn't. That is not what the answers were. 1, 2 to 10, 10 to 100, 100 to 1,000, 10 to 1,000, 1,000.
I think the form already gives you a CS like a spreadsheet, doesn't it?
Yeah. Let's.
Maybe we can just take that and at least the results are available as a spreadsheet, and then I think the questions are included if I'm not wrong.
As spreadsheet, maybe. No.
Go to responses.
Oh, okay.
And then link to sheets.
Oh, this is the new one. So let's go to responses and view in sheets here.
Then you don't need to copy the. Oh, but they don't have the result. Okay. Well,
Yeah, they don't have the options.
They don't have the options. Yeah. We can also just edit the form directly. I don't know.
Well, yeah, I thought we could edit the form directly. I just thought it would be a lot more compact if we put it in a document like this. But
yeah, if you don't mind copying it over, I just wanted to save you the trouble. But you are right; it would definitely be more compact.
I think that's free text. Oh God. I'll just assume that I'm not copying the checkboxes over or this. Keep alt-tabbing. Gonna have the recording's gonna have a little box of me popping between windows that I'm not actually using. Pull up contact. Oh yeah. Well, we don't especially need that. 1, 2. Oh, I could probably just highlight this and number it, can't I? Manually doing things that computers know how to do. Okay. So that's the questions from last year. We have this idea that the larger emphasis on AI and learning means that there might be more of an emphasis on data collection, and we could maybe incorporate that if we're interested in it. And then, of course, if we look at the results, we can see what other questions would you like to be included, and we've got a list here.
Shall we just copy them over to the texts, to the document, and then kind of triage them over there?
Yes. Yeah. Paste linked. Let's do that. All right. Oh no, is there a delete cell shortcut?
If you undo this and then you do Control Shift V for insertion, then it does it. Yeah, then it does it unformatted. What a technical path didn't work out well. Oops, I can't see it.
No question today.
I think the first one is a keeper. It just needs fixing. It's a broken sentence, but
Oh, I don't like this font change. What's going on here? Oh my god. Right. What technical paths didn't work out well?
Yeah.
Or which? One of them.
Which technical? Yeah. I would rephrase this as, which pitfalls did you encounter moving to the cloud? But whatever.
I mean, if any, is an unnecessary qualifier, would be. Paths didn't work out well. What pitfalls did you encounter?
I mean, the first phrasing is fine too, if we want to stay true to that.
Yeah, I'm trying to think if pitfalls is a metaphor that is less commonly used elsewhere. You know, it's easy to.
Oh, really? Oh, okay.
Well, just pitfall refers to a trap, right? And I don't understand. I don't know if someone would.
A trap? Oh, interesting. Then I've been using it wrong. I thought a pitfall is you're walking somewhere and then all of a sudden you fall into a pit because you didn't see it. Not that somebody was trapping you, but more like accident. Oh, okay. Pitfall
that's what I think of with pitfalls. I could be wrong
in the wording, right? So
yes, yeah.
I see. Okay, but my issue with I'm not married to the pitfall. My issue with which technical paths didn't work out. That's it's sort of an oxymoron in my mind, because to me it's not a technical path if it didn't work out. Maybe what they meant is which approach didn't work out. Maybe that's what they meant.
That's good.
You know? Yeah.
Let's have a look at more of these questions. I still feel like we could come up with a better wording than this. I don't know if going in with a negative is the best option, but
I think learning from I really like the question, because I see so many companies make the same mistakes. And I think learning from those mistakes is actually really useful. You can't learn just from positive examples, right? We all know that. So having a little bit of both positive and negative in it, I think, is actually quite instructive. So I don't mind the negativity of that. Yeah, issues is another good one.
This is close to our question too.
Yeah, the difference between issues is that issues is something that people tend to think that they overcome those issues, whereas approach are often like architectural flaws where you really have to backtrack and then start over. So the thing that springs to mind for me is the number one pitfall or like bad approach that I see is people start with REST APIs on the robots, right? And they make robot servers, and then that's sort of a dead end. Like, you have to like really change the architecture. This is not just a small issue that you have to overcome, right? Like, when I think of issues, I think of, well, whatever, we had connectivity issues, so we needed to have channel bonding between Wi-Fi and LTE. Fine, you work on the right track. You hit a wall, you broke through it, or you worked around it. But there are these like really fundamental approach issues. So technical path is actually not too far away from that. But yeah, perhaps we go on, like you said, and we can do wordsmithing afterwards, offline somehow.
Yeah, we'll do some refinement. I think I'm gradually getting further away from the core of the question with this one, so happy to leave it. All right. Are people using cloud in real-time loops? I don't know if that's really a survey question, is it?
No, I think it definitely is.
Oh, okay.
To me, anything that asks, what do people do in practice, this is sort of the nature of that, right? What do you actually do? I think those are the most instructive, right? That because people only to a degree care about each other's opinions. The first one is a little bit of an opinion question, right? Like, what did you think worked or did not work? That's why actually I like the negative one, because if somebody is willing to admit that they made a mistake and gave up on it, that's a fairly strong statement, right? That's like, we've discovered a dead end, as opposed to, we thought of 5 approaches, we picked one, and here it is, right? So I actually like these negative ones. This one is in some sense similarly non-squishy, right? Because it's just asking, do you do it or not? I'd be very curious to know that. I think it's wrong to do it, but I'd be curious whether people are, and in perhaps what capacities they're using the cloud for the real robot operations, right?
Okay, let's include this, and we'll go back and refine this one as well. I mean, this is just almost restating the question.
Yeah, we can just
what facilities you have, or where to go for more information on your specific needs. Okay, so they're saying, do you know where to go for resources? Essentially. So, what is it possible to do with cloud robotics, and
yeah, it's a good one.
where do you go for information?
I did not make any sense of the question, but I understand yours, and I think it's a good one to include. Do we not have a question about resources yet? Can we check?
We do.
Yeah, come on, that's too close to. We don't need that twice.
Yeah. Do you know what possibilities? Yeah, I mean,
I would just kill it. We're not going to include all 20 suggestions, right? So we will have to be somewhat critical.
We were very careful to keep the question count low before.
That's right.
Okay, please also share best practices for control, monitor, simulation, etc. using the cloud. I mean, this does remind me of a question I was considering, which is how are we doing, essentially? Are videos, guides useful? I haven't articulated this even to myself yet. It's basically just, are we as a group doing the right thing? Are we contributing to cloud robotics in the way we want to be?
Yeah, that's a good question. I thought we had a question about kind of what else would you want to see from the group, no? What would help you the most with implementing your cloud solutions? Number 4.
The basic response was tutorials and documentation were 2 different options that came back very highly voted for, but we weren't specific about whether we made it or whether someone else made it.
Okay.
So I guess it's slightly different. Anyway, I'll leave that as a note. But yeah, best practices. I think we're trying to do this, and I think they're asking us to do that. They're not suggesting a survey question. They're saying, please, can you share best practices?
Yeah. So maybe not including in the survey, but good feedback for us. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm just going to cross this through. I can't find the cross through. Never mind.
It's Control. I think it's Shift-Alt-5.
Shift-Alt-5. Wow. Well remembered.
Thank you.
Okay. Business scenarios, blocking issues or challenges. I wonder if that ties into this. Mostly because it said blocking issues or challenges. I feel
Tie
like
into
this
what?
is
Sorry,
two
I wasn't paying
things.
attention for a second.
I think this might be two questions: one on the business scenario that you're solving with Cloud Robotics, and one on blocking issues or challenges you've had,
Yeah.
which is similar to this,
Yeah.
which approach didn't work out well.
Yeah, so maybe we keep the first part and then the second part is already lumped into, because the other thing is people were suggesting questions without knowing what other people were suggesting. So definitely merging is a sort of almost like a pre-processing step that we should be doing here.
No problem, session. Okay. What are you using? What's the business scenario for your robotics? I guess. What are you using? Business need are you solving? I feel like we've got something similar to this already as well.
Do we?
So largest number. No,
Oh, yeah.
no, we don't.
Well, business. Oh, following use cases doesn't specifically call out business. Yes.
No, and I think the options we gave don't lend themselves to that either.
Well, the first question, we might be. I think in Google Forms you can have different sections, right? So maybe we can put under like into the same section as the first one have a multiple choice of sort of industry, right? So ag tech, construction, security, delivery, things like that, right? So we can better delineate as to where cloud robotics is used more.
So would this just be a separate question? What are you using? What
I
industry
was
are you
thinking
using?
under one, like a 1B, you know how one asked about the size of the fleet, and then
Oh
the follow-up would
yeah.
be, well, and in what capacity, like in which industry?
I think that's a good idea. Yeah, that ties in quite well. All right. Specific task or job you're trying to achieve. Don't we have that?
Yeah, I think that's exactly the one that you showed before. Use cases did you incorporate? Oh, what's the task or job? Yeah, I think that's very similar to number 3.
So we've got like the practical areas, development, deployment, operating a fleet, as opposed to what specific task or job you're trying to achieve.
It's a little
Either that's
ambiguous
the same
because it
thing or I'm
doesn't.
misinterpreting this question.
Yeah, I don't know whether they meant which task as in like real world task that you're solving with robotics, or which sort of robot architectural problem are you trying to solve, right? Like these are completely different things. It's almost like is it an outside of the box task or an inside of the box task? And then, yeah, so it's a little hard to make sense of that. Let's keep a mental note of it, but I would not put too much weight on it because we can't be sure we understand what they meant. And to a degree, we already cover it.
Maybe a one line of the application they're solving.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll cross that off as we've got it. Some architecture use case related questions. Robotics can mean many things for many different people. I guess we are adding more use case questions through this process. I don't know about architecture questions. This is an architecture question.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. I mean, his point, or their point, is definitely well taken, right? Cloud robotics means different things to different people, and the one that you highlighted is something that, like Foghorn, for instance, they interpret it as number two, right? Like you basically want to offload compute to the cloud.
Yeah.
Then people like me think of it as more of an operational layer that you absolutely need once your fleet scales. And then you, in the past, have, at AWS, right, people have been thinking about simulation in the cloud, sort of like during the development process. I mean, maybe that would be nice to capture somehow, right? Because I'm imagining, I don't know how to phrase the question, but I know how to phrase the answers. The answers being during development, during operation, and, well, the other one is also during operation, but in a different capacity, right? For compute, for function, maybe it's for function, for management, or for development. And now we play Jeopardy. Now we need to ask the question. Well, you could say, for which purpose do you use the cloud? And then the answers are for development, and then simulation would fall into that. For function, which then would mean this real-time loops, or for operations and monitoring, which is then more along the lines of, fleet management. Does that make any sense, what I'm babbling? I was focusing on what I'm saying, not necessarily how
Yeah, and I think it's overlapping with what we're discussing. Maybe in this real-time loops, it's sort of an expansion of that. Maybe we shouldn't capture it there.
Yeah, but 5 might be more general, right? I mean, because now, if somebody wants to answer the number 2 question with a yes, then they would just say 5AI, 5A1.
Yeah.
It might be nice to have a follow-on, like a text field after that 5A question, where people can specify where they can add more context. It's just a thought.
Okay. Related to media transfer. Would that be uploading and downloading training data, possibly?
Maybe training data, or it could be live streams. Not sure what they really meant here.
I think there's just not enough information to act on here.
Yeah, and I also think it was more in the category of, please tell me how to do media transfer, as opposed to please ask people how to do media transfer. So it wasn't necessarily a suggestion for the survey. Okay, you might want a survey question to distinguish between robotics developers and tooling developers. Yep. With might be bigger, thus biased toward the cloud. Oh, I see. That's interesting. So basically, I think they're trying to point out that we may have a statistical bias in our survey, because if I understand them correctly, they're saying that these companies that need internal tooling are bigger, and therefore there are more respondents, and therefore we get a bias towards I don't know. Not sure how important that is. The first sentence might be
tooling
more
companies
useful.
are more likely to go to the cloud.
What? Say it again?
I feel like tooling companies are more likely to go to the cloud because they can host everything there and offer a service directly from AWS, GCP, Azure.
Yeah.
It sounds like something we're not capturing and probably should capture. So
they might be talking about 2 different personas at the same company. In a lot of companies, when they become more mature, they do distinguish between robotics developers and tooling developers. Well, they might use different words for it, but they sort of have a robotics team, and then often it's called the web team or cloud team or whatever. And maybe that's what they're pointing out.
I suppose we've pretty much written this targeted at robotics developers, because a tooling developer doesn't say what size of fleet they've got.
Oh, no, of course. No. A tooling developer at a robotics company.
I mean, there are tooling developers that aren't at a robotics company. They're just making a tool that can be used for robotics, right?
I understand that too. People who work at Foxglove, right? They wouldn't know how to
Yes.
answer that question because on the one hand, it's whatever their largest customer. On the other hand, they've never worked with a fleet, perhaps themselves. I understand that distinction, but I think in the context, the person who was writing that last question that we were looking at, I think they might be talking about the different personas within a larger company where they are large enough where they are starting to develop tooling for their fleet as well.
So what kind of question would we ask based on that?
That's a good question. Yeah. You might want a survey question to distinguish it. Well, I think maybe they're actually asking, like, what is your role in your current company? Are you a robotics developer? Are you a tooling developer? Are you a web developer? Are you a full stack developer? Are you an executive? Are you the CFO? I don't know. Yeah, I think that would be good.
I think this is falling quite neatly into the information about the survey respondent.
Yeah, I think so. I think that'll be good. I remember 2 years ago when we created the survey, I was one of the people advocating for a short survey. And part of it was because I was worried we wouldn't get enough responses. I feel like now that we've done it once, it is okay to make the second one a little bit longer, especially if they are all optional, right? Like, I hate surveys that force you to fill out all 36 questions or whatever it is. When really you just want to express strong opinions about one or two of them. So, and if we group it into sections, I think it's pretty easy to fill it out partially if people want to, and that would still be very useful for us.
I agree. Yeah. So yeah, we don't need to go through and cut it back down to the 6 most important questions. We can afford to ask a few more. Okay, are they good? Low latency? Are there any ROS integrations? I mean, this is another one of, it's kind of asking us for information.
Right. I think that's the we already know the implicit question and answer. Like the implicit survey question is do you have the right, do you know where to find resources? And the answer is no. You want more advice. Well, this is just an instance of it, right? So yeah, this is I mean, number 6 is basically input to us. In some ways, this is an answer to the survey. They should have put it under, I think we had a section of, what else would you like to know, right? They should have probably put it there. And then we would have known, okay, fine, we can do a session where we talk about low latency stuff.
Yeah. Okay, so we can have that as feedback for the group that we remember, and otherwise we can check it off the list. I think this is in a similar vein, isn't it? Multi-robot tasks. Yeah. Okay.
Oh, this is not ambiguous at all. Cloud infrastructure for robotics applications and networking. Are they looking for advice again on what a good cloud infrastructure is?
So let's look at the question. Maybe that. What other questions would you like to be included in our next survey of the state of cloud robotics? Cloud infrastructure for robotics application and networking.
It's not even a question. I don't know how to interpret this as a question.
What cloud infrastructure to use?
Could be.
I'm going to interpret it as that and assume it's not useful as a survey question. Either that or there's not enough information. So sorry if you posted that question. Please feel free to contact us and let us know what you meant. Is there a best practice to deploy multiple robots in a big robotics company? If yes, what are the best practices?
Multiple robots in a big robotics company. What do they mean by deploy multiple robots in a big robotics company? Like, do they really mean deployment management? So when people talk about deployment management, they usually mean version control, knowing which version runs on the robot. How do you do over-the-air updates, or do you even do it, right? Because everybody starts by SSHing in, doing a git pull or something like that. Maybe even compiling on the robot and then starting the whatever it is, right? And so that could be, and then it would again be a question for advice or a guide. And I would say we have it on our list, right? Right now we're still on the logging and observability chapter, so to speak. But I think another one was deployment management, wasn't it?
Yeah, fleet. I think we might have called it fleet management, maybe.
Yeah, fleet management can again mean so many things for different people, but deployment management is definitely very prominent within that. Yeah,
definitely. All right, so we'll interpret it as a request for information rather than a survey question.
But okay, yes, but the second part was clearly for other people. Like, what are best practices? Best practices is a bad question to ask, right? Because nobody who answers will be, let's say, arrogant enough to say, I know what the best practice is, right? What they would rather say is, this is what we do, and pros and cons or something like that. So, and I think those are always very instructive when people just see what do other people. A lot of times people just want to know, what do other people do? Like, how do other people overcome this problem? How do other people do deployment management? So maybe we could include a question on deployment management. And the thing that comes to mind is, of course, how do you bundle your software? Is it Docker images? Is it apt packages? Do you build using Bloom or whatever, these ROS package builders? How do you distribute that? How do you version that? It might be difficult to put that into a multiple choice question. Maybe checkboxes would work if we ask, do you use Docker Compose, Kubernetes, K3s,
Bare metal.
apt packages, YOLO, build root, yeah, things like that. I don't know whether that works. Maybe we'll have to try to write down that list and see whether that makes sense. The problem with these how questions is, okay, yeah, now yeah, okay, good. Well, bare metal is not a bundle, right? So you would have to say yeah, something like that, or a debian package. Maybe do add Yocto and build root, because some people definitely do that. Build root.
Oh.
Oh yeah, and others. No, root, ROOT.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then
Funny how any of those three would have been a reasonable name.
they are, and honestly, build root is very old and not very well maintained from what I gather. I think Yocto is sort of the better replacement for that. Maybe include K3s. I've seen that.
What's K3s versus K8s?
Yeah, I'm not actually an expert on it, but I think K3s is sort of a lightweight on-edge Kubernetes orchestrator or something like that.
Highly available certified distribution for production workloads.
Oh, maybe it's a. Oh yeah, no, it seems like an open source project, right?
K3 is good for edge computing and quick setups.
Yeah,
K8 is for large scale.
I was
Interesting.
roughly right.
It's something that I might look into later. That's cool.
There is like another thing. It's called CubeEdge. I think it's from Ubuntu.
Good one. Yeah, we should include that.
Yeah. I guess CubeEdge is the expansion of Kubernetes, but we can definitely Whoops, didn't want to do that. I wanted to do K8 plus cube edge.
I think because we have K8s and we're going to make them checkboxes, you can just add cube edge and then people can check that separately. What tools and frameworks are others using for deployment? Okay, that's the same one. And configuration of, well, deployment we just covered, but the configuration management question is still a good one. It's just not so easy to create checkboxes for that. It's more of an open-ended question.
It is, yeah. I mean, we can have deployment and then separately configuration.
Definitely, but what are the checkboxes for that?
Pretexts.
Pretext. Okay, yeah, that's fine. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so we're adding, well, potentially 7 questions, but realistically, this is just a kind of note to myself. I feel like there's an organization of questions falling out here, but
there's a high-level question that I really want to ask somehow, and I think I don't. It's similar to the one that you were pondering in your mind, but you described as not something that you articulated yet. So I haven't articulated it perfectly yet either. But what I want to get at is make versus buy, because a lot of cloud robotics is really tooling, and then there's always the question of, do you build it all in-house? And somehow I would like to understand how people think about that, and also how they make the decision, how they find what's out there, both commercially and open source, right? Like I think there's so many. I think one of the big issues, honestly, in robotics and cloud robotics in particular, is that it's not so well established that you can just get the best practice from the internet. And it's also not really unlike robotics per se, right, for which there are groups like Rust Discourse and so forth, there is not an obvious community for the sort of tool developers. And as a result, I think a lot of them are working completely ignorant of other people, not knowing, for instance, that what they're building there has been built at other robotics companies before, not knowing that there are tools out there. Like I still find people who don't know what Foxglove is. Like, how on earth, right? Like, how is that possible? But yeah, so I guess, like, I don't know whether I'm making any sense, right? But I'm trying to sort of figure out how people make those decisions, what their workflow is before they decide to build it in-house, and to some extent ask, like, why do you build it in-house? Why do you feel like you need to build it in-house? And then maybe the answer is a lot of them think that there's no third parties out there, and for some things they might be right. But it could be a matter of, in some sense, us not educating them well enough on what tools there do exist. Yeah, something like that.
not invented here syndrome.
Oh, that for sure. Sometimes I think it's a matter of wanting to control everything and not knowing what they need to control, and then it always feels easier to just build it yourself. But obviously there's downsides to that.
Okay, let me grab this and put it with the rest of the vague notes.
Yeah.
Okay, so I think we have probably a bunch of new questions that we can refine the wording of. I think our original questions, we should double check them and make sure we stand by them. And then I think we can create sections, so we can sort of group the questions together. So it's like information about survey respondent, more information about what you do, more information about resources you use, stuff like that. So largest number of robots you've worked with at one time. Okay, so that's very specific to the person rather than is in the person's history rather than what they're doing right now and the company they've worked for, they are working for. I think we did that deliberately.
Yeah, the idea was to understand their level of experience, right? Because if you have somebody who has one robot and then they speak of best practices or something like that, well, I'm sorry, but you're still fairly early on in your understanding of what the problems are at scale. Whereas a company that has somebody who's been in an operational role or even an engineering role at a company that has 1,000 robots out there, their needs are very different, right? Both their needs and their experience. That's why I thought it was good for calibration.
That makes sense. I don't think we need to change that. What issues did you encounter with your robots that you tried to solve using the cloud? I think that's okay. Which of the following use cases did you incorporate the cloud? I think that's still good. What would help you the most with implementing your cloud solutions? Just going to have a look at the options that we wrote for this. Oh, so this is our question on, and we've got better documentation tutorials and recommendations for best practices. I think those are the two voted for ones. I think that was a surprise to me, and I think that would be good to keep in. Please list any cloud technologies or resources that you use and would recommend. I think that's still really good. What other questions would you like to be included? That's worth having. Do you have any other comments? And if you're willing to be contacted, I think we added this after the fact, didn't we?
We may have. Yeah.
I think we did, and we were starting to review results, and we were like, oh, it'd be great if we could talk to these people. We should have put that in. We added it afterwards.
Oh, I see. So we only got it from some of the later respondents. Is that
I think
what
that's
it is?
true. Yeah, I'm not certain of that, but I have a memory that we did that. But we'll include it from the start this time. So I think this is fine. This is kind of like tidy up almost. Okay, great. So survey respondent information. We'll have here. We'll have. Alt tabbing again instead of going to the bottom. What industry do you work in? And then we'll need to list a few. I'm noting that we have 10 minutes left. I think we've made good progress. I was hoping we'd have the questions done today and sent out, but I don't think it's worth rushing them out just because I was planning to get them done today. So let's just continue on. We'll finish them off in the next session and then put the survey out.
Okay, sounds good to me.
Okay, application. Application. I don't know how to phrase that. What application are you solving? The application is about what their robot or tool is doing.
I mean, as a freeform text, I think that's fine. The problem with freeform text is always the aggregation, right? Like deduplicating and identifying the same, and even then you don't get a lot of duplicate counts. It might still be useful for the people who want to point it out. Like for instance, AgTech, right? They could say, well, we do weeding versus spraying versus I don't know, something else. And in construction, same, right? Like we make drywalls, we put stakes in the ground, we mark solar panel installations, whatever else, right? But that one we definitely would have to leave open as a freeform text. Whereas the industry, we can create a good list.
Yeah, agreed. Industry do you work with? come up with list free text. There we go. And then this is kind of free text, but we've suggested the options.
Yeah, maybe one of those combination like checkboxes and then other, because some roles we can definitely, there's the robotics team, there's the tooling / DevOps, there's web, there's cloud, there's infrastructure. We can expand on that. There's operations, of course. We always want to hear from the operations people. Yeah.
Okay. I'm thinking there's. I didn't want to do that. Do that. There's kind of what you're doing, and then there's how to do CR generally. It feels like that's how they're breaking down a bit.
Mm-hmm.
So this is specific to the person, and this is just general information.
Mm-hmm.
So that's all our original. Well, no. Information. Extra information is a terrible heading.
Yeah, we can find a different
survey feedback. There we go.
Mm-hmm. And then, do you think we can fit the new questions within those 4 somehow, or are you?
I'm thinking we fit them in if they fit,
mm-hmm.
or we create new sections.
Mm-hmm.
So we got
the first one is sort of a how question, I think, so it would fall well into the how do you do CR kind of thing.
That didn't work out well. I'm moving to the cloud. Yeah, I think so.
I might resort them differently because the what would help you seems like logically after telling us what they did in the past.
Yes.
So then we basically have the B and C are basically the positive and the negative. And then the what would help is kind of the tying up loose threads, like how can we help, given all of the, now that you've described the experience to us, and what would help you more. So maybe move C be above B, and then, you know what I mean?
Please, so what technical paths did you try? List any tech or resources that user would recommend, and then what would help you. Yeah, I think that makes sense. Okay. Pitfalls. How are we doing? I'm not set on this being a question. This is again just how is the CRWG helping? Again, refine. I'm unsure whether to ask this. I'm trying to decide whether it has a place in the survey or whether we should just ask it separately.
It's a good question. The honest truth, I think, is that a lot of people don't even know about the group.
That's my thinking too.
I mean, the attendance has been set relatively low. I haven't checked yet on how many people visit the website and watch the videos. I would like some feedback on this too, just like you, right? Like what, but in some ways the survey itself is what we want. We want the answers to that because it helps, it invites people to tell us what they would like us to do, right? Like provide more guidance, write better how-tos, invite more speakers. So yeah, I'm not. Maybe there's a way to reword it to get at some of that, but in some ways it's already captured by the survey itself.
So it's more
maybe
of
one thing that we could perhaps do is before we can ask. I mean, so let's take it apart. If somebody wanted to answer the question of is the CRWG helping? Well, then we first need to understand, do you even know what the CRWG does? Have you attended meetings? Have you watched any videos? Have you visited the website? Which of our things did you find helpful? And then almost after checking all of these things, we could ask, well, do you think that was useful? I don't know. We could, yeah. How can they really help more? Yeah. Well, I guess we could be more specific and say like which of the resources that that the group has put together do you find most useful? Videos, attending meetings, asking questions, the website. Do you know what I mean? I'm not. Yeah. The meeting
I call them
I like
tech
the
tryouts.
tech talks because it's almost like or guest speakers or something like that, right? Because I think the tech tryouts is also good, but maybe add another one for guest speakers, because meeting recordings, we have such a variety of different meetings, and as a result, the recordings are also very different, right? Like this recording. Compare that to say Guillaume from COS coming and present. Completely different audience, right? Some people are interested in that, but not so much in us putting a survey together. So yeah, so it's good, I think, to have guest speakers.
That's good. Okay, we'll continue this next time. I think we're going to be cut off any second. Under a minute, the call says. So thanks for your help. We'll be back next time.
Sounds good.
Bye for now.